All right, boys, let's talk about some guys who are taken off this year. If I forget anybody, my bad. And as always, the order that I talk about guys, that's not a ranking. It's just the order that I happen to talk about them in. I'm going to do a quick aside on Donovan Mitchell because I feel like it's just kind of gone under the radar because Cleveland's been kind of weird. He's averaging like over 30 a game. I feel like we should at least acknowledge that when talking about guys making improvements. I know he's not leading the conversation of this sort of thing right now, but there you go. I think you could say similar things about De'Aaron Fox. He's played less games, but yeah. We are going to start with Scotty Barnes. And the two most noticeable things with Scotty to me are, one, his confidence in his jump shot, and two, the way the Raptors are using him on offense. And we'll get to that one with the Raptors. But as far as Scotty, I mean, he's had some plays where like he'll get a DHO from like Anunoby or Siakam or something, and then, quick little screen action, and he'll recognize if his defender is going under the screen, he'll just rise up for the three, which, earlier in his career, it was a bit of a push and pull of how confident he was going to be in his jumper. He'll just cook from mid-range and take like a long two-pointer, which I know what the efficiency stuff says on that, but he's actually been amazing on long twos so far, which, I mean, I think he was shooting like 80% last time I checked, which, no, that number's not going to hold up. So, like, couple plays for you. One in the Spurs game where he's got Charles Bassey guarding him, and he basically just shoots a size-up long two over him, and it goes in. Another in the Sixers game where it's a pick and roll, and then it's Embiid waiting for him and drop, and he just kind of takes a step-back two-pointer, it goes in. But you combine that with him being better from three, looking more confident, stepping into him with confidence, all that good stuff. Now with Scotty, he always had the ability to get downhill, and I feel like he was always I don't think there's a stat for this, but I swear he was the leader in the, like, let me try to cook a dude, and then when I get to the paint, I'm going to turn it into a post-up out of nowhere, and then it's going to become a hook shot. Like, it just seemed like he did that all the time. And he is still doing that, but I feel like whether through having a slightly sharper handle to where, I mean, in the Sixers game, there was a play where, like, I think it was him on Paul Reed. He just starts cooking Paul Reed from mid-range, hits him with a couple crossovers, then he's gone to the rim, right? So it does seem like his handle's a little better, but also the way the Raptors are using him, there's more like DHOs. There's more like he'll get a pin down screen from Schroeder and then get a pass from Pirtle or a handoff from Pirtle. And then from there, it's like he's hitting Pirtle on the roll or he's getting downhill himself. There's been some like high-low action both ways where like he'll get in the post off of like someone screening for him and then Siakam will throw it to him, or the other way around. And like I said, he is still having his post-ups, including that one where he just straight up dunked over Sohan in the Spurs game. There was no move, it's just, I'm going to jump over you. And I do also think it's been pretty good how they've spaced him out to where like he'll be on the opposite wing of Schroeder, and Schroeder will throw it to him real fast, and then Scotty can catch and drive off of it. And, he's been kind of fearless with attacking the rim. But there have been a couple times where I feel like that might have been an offensive foul, but, he's drawing a lot of contact, and I do expect his free throw numbers to be higher. And I do think he's been showing off some chops as a help defender. I think he had like 3 blocks in the Spurs game. A couple of them were off of closeout threes, one where he was helping at the rim, and that's definitely intriguing as well. The Raptors' offense overall, they've been trying to have more movement, more actions, more re-screens, using Pirtle as a hub, whatever. I would say Scotty has definitely looked the best so far out of them. We'll just put it like that. We'll see with them overall. Schroeder's assist numbers have been nice. Next we can go on to Maxey. And I think it was in the Wizards game recently where him and Embiid ran like 3 or 4 straight left wing pick and rolls, and every single time it was like Maxey bounce pass to Embiid or just bullet pass to Embiid on the roll for something. Maxey has found Joel for the pops, or, the thing that Harden was doing so much last year, which was like bounce pass with Embiid on the roll to allow him to flow into the 15-footer that he basically just never missed all of last year. Of course, Philly has been running more like DHOs and off-ball actions, which I think Tobias and Kelly Oubre have really profited off of, and Kelly Oubre, my goodness. But yeah, so you'll see Maxey just throw it to those guys really quick on a possession to where they can attack, or even the other way around. Well, they'll throw it really quick to Maxey, then he can attack off the catch. A couple pin downs for him, where like Pat Bev will set him a screen off ball, and then he'll flow into like a handoff action from Paul Reed or something. And of course, you're going to get your simple pick and rolls where Maxey can then go into his pull-up, which has been amazing so far this year. Or he can get into the paint where, for a dude who's not very big, Maxey, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not like Jimmy Butler drawing contact, but he's not terrified of contact. Like, he'll get into guys, then hit him with like a little floater or whatever. Like, Maxey's been great, and I do think everybody kind of saw this coming. I mean, it's an ode to how good Maxey was in like his second season that we're not shocked to see this from him now. A couple other things with Philly while I'm here, because one of my questions with them was, how can Nick Nurse leave his imprint on this team? Well, listen, their offensive rebound percentage is way higher this year compared to last year. It's at like 30%, which is like 9th in the league. Last year, they were like 25th in the league in that. Their fast break points per game are also up. And as we all know, they're doing different things on offense. It's not just Harden and Embiid pick and roll, and Maxey, you get yours a little bit. There's more variety, more DHOs. I think the spacing is also better, where it's like Maxey's one pass away from Embiid on post-ups a little more, or face-ups, if you will. Now we go to Anthony Edwards, whose efficiency has been insane so far. And my most recent memory of him is the Celtics game where at the end there he was able to get switched onto Horford like 3 or 4 times. And then while I think Al did as good a job as you could ask him to do, it's Edwards rising up for like a long 2-pointer, taking him off the dribble, making this like running bank shot thing. Look, if you want to dive into the numbers with Edwards, he is taking a higher percentage of his shots from mid-range, and they're going in at a crazy rate right now. There's handoffs, there's pick and roll action, there's some like relocating from the free throw line to the wing, and then he catches it on the move and then goes into his next thing. With the Wolves, it does feel like Gobert is setting more on-ball screens than Cat, but regardless of which one it does feel like Edwards is just more composed, working around screens, putting his defender like in jail on his back a little bit more, whereas I do think through parts of his career he's been like a little erratic within the crazy athletic like finishes he would have. It does seem like it's a little more on the side of under control now, which is not surprising because we've seen him just have an upward trajectory, and he played great, in the international stuff in the offseason and everything. And look, maybe that was the big adjustment for him. It was toning down the tough threes a little bit. He's still taking his tough threes, don't get me wrong, and turning some of those possessions into mid-range attempts. And then defensively, I think his ball pressure is looking better, and the Wolves, listen, the Celtics offense was just like straight up bad in crunch time this last game. And so I think the Wolves, they're showing what they can be on defense. Definitely him, Jaden Gobert, who's looking better, at least compared to last season, even if he was still very good last season. Now, if he can keep this up, I would say the final step for Edwards is still cleaning up like some of the turnovers. Like in that Celtics game, they would put 2 on the ball on him, and there were a couple times where he got uncomfortable dealing with that, and the turnovers are still like kind of there this season. Does that contradict what I just said about him looking under control around screens? I don't know. Now let's go to Şengün, and I've already said many nice things about him being featured more, screening more for Fred, the 2-man game. Fred bounce passes to Şengün on the roll, then he can make the next play for somebody, whatever. And whether he's got the ball like at the top of the key to be a hub, or he's got it on the post like on the wing or whatever, and his post moves are beautiful. I say all this casually just because we all know it, but like we all get it. Şengün can be a special offensive player. Here's the thing. The Rockets have been good with Şengün on the court defensively this season. And obviously some of that is ball pressure from Fred and Brooks, as well as Jabari. He was a good team defender last year, Jabari. I think he was already showing those signs. I do think, when I've kind of honed in on them defensively, granted they've benefited from De'Aaron Fox not playing the last 2 games against the Kings, and Steph Curry went crazy in that 1 fourth quarter, but it does feel like with Şengün, while he's been dropping on screens, it's been a mix of like sometimes he commits to the big rolling. Like you could see that in the first quarter, especially against the Kings. And other times he does commit a little more to the ball handler. Maybe it's just based on whether they get clear of like Brooks or Fred coming around the screen or Jaylen coming around the screen. Besides that, I think Fred and Dillon Brooks, underrated part of their defense, that they're really good help defenders. Obviously, they're not like 7-footers, but they do a good job of like, helping at the free throw line and getting back to their guy, that sort of thing. I also think the Rockets' communication on switches has been really good this season as well. You can see him pointing and communicating and all that on certain plays, and that's like a Udoka special. But yeah, the Rockets starting 5 of Fred, Brooks, Jaylen, Şengün, and Jabari. Defensive rating of 102 in 109 minutes, and that's a very good number. Next, we're going to go to Cam Thomas, and hey, listen, man, the Cam Thomas show is here. Granted, he has not gone nuclear in every game, but he's gone nuclear in most of them, and he just had 45 against the Bucks, and in that game, he's coming around screens, and it's just the Bucks drop defense, which of course has been very successful, and obviously brooking a drop is better for them, but there are some nights when pretty much nothing is going to stop Cam Thomas. And whether that is the pull-up, whether that is him getting like pretty decently physical with defenders while keeping his dribble kind of low, because what is he? He's listed at 210 pounds. Like he's a pretty strong dude, right? To where he can bump guys just enough, and then he can get into these sort of 15-footers where he's like turning in midair, but he's able to drop him in anyway. Some of his later buckets, he was going out like Bobby Portis on a switch or whatever against the Bucks. Look, it's wild to watch. It makes me feel like I'm watching a dude out of like 2004 just get buckets. Also, Mikal Bridges continues to be great. I look forward to Nick Claxton being back, and with how well Dorian Finney-Smith has been shooting, I feel like somebody is going to offer them a first-round pick for him. Next, we go to Shaden Sharp, and yeah, I talked about him in the overreacting to the West videos, but yeah, look, in the offseason, I was a little fearful that Shaden was not going to get enough possessions on this Blazers team, and it has not been a problem. He has been getting a lot of opportunities, and I think the thing about it is how simple a lot of the offense has been, where like it's a lot of pick and rolls, it's a lot of DHOs, some pin downs here and there, but it's a lot of pretty basic offense, and Shaden is just whatever he's got to do, man, whether it's get downhill, whether it's hit his pull-ups. I still will say the most impressive thing to me from him is how quick he is attacking off the catch. So like maybe Scoot will run an action with Ayton on one side of the floor, then he'll swing it to Sharp, and then in 1 second he's like catching it, and then he's already in the paint, basically. I will also say with Shaden, I think it's been cool to see, like, because he's really shifty, right? So he can, like, act like he's going to go flow into a handoff action, and then right when he sees that his defender commits to that, he then goes the other way and cuts, and he'll get a pass from, like, Ayton or something off of that. I did also talk about Desmond Bane in my overreactions to the West video, so I don't want to go super long on this one either, but Bane has, like, some of my favorite off-ball sets in the league. Like, obviously, Steph is the most fun to watch work off-ball, but whenever Bane is like going into a handoff action or someone screening off ball for him to where he can flow from like top of the key to the wing or the other way around, that dude does it in like a full sprint, but then he's able to stop like kind of immediately to where that he can then go into like his pull up. And of course he's been an amazing 3-point shooter for years now. It's just very fun to watch. And on top of that, you're going to get your like transition stuff, your trailing threes, your pump and then go to the rim, and all of it. Like, Desmond Bane's very good. The Grizzlies have other things to figure out. We'll see if Bismack Biyombo is their savior. Now we're going to get to Tyler Herro, and maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places, but I feel like there hasn't been a lot of discussion about Herro's season so far, where everything is up. I mean, look, man, he's leading Miami in shot attempts, touches per game, minutes per game. And as far as what it looks like, I mean, if you've seen Tyler Herro cook, you know what it looks like. It's screens on the ball. It'll be like handoff actions from Bam. You will have little times where he'll like ghost screen for Jimmy or Bam or whatever, flow into a three or go in off the dribble. If you really want to dive into shot chart stuff, this is going to be weird to explain. The number of threes that he is attempting is up, mostly due to everything is up with him, attempts, everything. However, the percentage of his shots that are threes is actually a little down in favor of some more mid-range attempts. I could also just say his three-point rate is lower, but his actual number per game is higher. He had 9 assists against the Wizards recently, so that was cool, with my favorite one being a signature Miami action, which is he just kind of screens off ball for Duncan Robinson, who then throws it back to him, and then Robinson rolls, and then Herro finds him, and it's normal Tyler Herro, it's normal Miami Heat stuff, it's just more Tyler Herro, which still deserves praise. I mean, the fact that he can handle this much usage that Miami's giving him right now, that's an ode to how good he is. I'm going to talk Devin Vassell for just a little bit. It's not like his points per game have exploded, but his efficiency has definitely gone up. I'm just going to repeat what I said in a previous video. The Devin Vassell mid-range god conversation, it's coming. You just got to be ready for it. He's shooting 55% on mid-range jumpers this year. I should talk about Cade for a little bit because I think after that big game he had against Miami, there was a little bit of, could Cade get most improved? I mean, his points and his assists have been good. It's just that his efficiency, true shooting, turnovers, all that, those have not been too good, and the Pistons ask him to do so much, bro. He's among the league leaders in usage rate. I mean, he leads them in shot attempts at nearly 21 a game, second most as a SAR at 11. And while some of their guys have been better from three this year, like Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes has even been a little better, Marcus Sasser, the rookie's been making his threes, teams are still just collapsing in the paint to guard Cade. So don't get me wrong, Cade needs to be better, and some of these turnovers where he like kind of just dribbles himself into trouble, basically, those are rough. But I do think, and this does show up if you look at his like by quarter stats, the dude is exhausted every fourth quarter because he has to do everything for this offense. Monty is also going with Killian starting over Jaden Ivey. It also feels weird that Ivey's only been at 20 minutes a game so far, and Bogdanovich not being there, it's definitely felt. RJ has been making his threes, and he's looked good coming around screens so far. I know that sounds pretty basic, but the biggest thing with RJ is consistency, and okay, it looks better to start the season. Zaire Williams, DeAndre Hunter. Next up, Jaylen Johnson. Have I already used the term Swiss Army knife for him for Atlanta on both sides of the ball? I love that he's attacking the glass. You got him screening on the ball for Trey, which, that can lead to pick and pops, that can lead to rolls, that can lead to catch and drives. In transition, he's there. He can be a source of extra variety on offense. Little things like, he'll throw it to Capella and then get a handoff from Capella, and then he's getting downhill. That obviously it's still a lot of Trey and DeJounte for them, but just little extra stuff. I also think Jaylen could creep up to like 4 assists per game as long as Atlanta keeps him featured in the offense, handoffs and setting screens, whatever. He's a good passer, man. He does pull off a lot of passes that might not result in assists, but they keep the offense moving, As for his defense, I mean, there is a stat going around right now where, like, when Jaylen Johnson is guarding somebody, their field goal percentage drops by a certain amount. I think he already has a pretty good understanding of rotation, so you can see him moving off ball to be like, oh, this guy is cutting, I have to pick him up, that sort of thing. He is switchable. I think his effort is there. You put all that together, positive piece for the Hawks. Now we're going to go with a couple of centers, Mark Williams and Jalen Duren. So I already talked about Mark Williams earlier this year, and okay, the defensive numbers with him on the court have fallen back down to earth a little bit. even so, still very intrigued there. He's been kind of a beast with his finishing. I mean, like LaMelo stealing the ball from Halliburton on the last play of the game, like that was what got a lot of the attention for the Hornets, deservedly so. Big play from LaMelo and stuff. There was a number of times when Mark Williams was on the roll and like the Pacers were putting 2 on the ball or whatever, and he was just kind of a beast, with the biggest one being this alien arm layup alley-oop thing he had, where it's like, I have no idea how he got that ball. And similar thing for Jaylen Duren. Having that lob threat for the Pistons definitely helps. It's great. Of course, with Duren, it's his potential as a versatile defender. We're like, yeah, he could be the rim protector around the rim for you, but he's also shown an ability to switch. And like, no, he's not Nick Claxton right now. But again, he's shown those signs, right? Obviously, the potential of him and Asar long term, because Asar already looks awesome as a defender, fighting around screens, holding up 1v1, and putting up some crazy steal and block numbers in the process. The thing for the Pistons is that they're still going to need more shooting on the roster, but that's a different conversation.